Can I be shy and be a lawyer? This is the LFI channel, and this is Tom. Let's dive into this one. I think this is going to be an interesting one. So, can a shy person be a successful lawyer? And we're going to talk about how this came about a little bit. I have a good friend who's a very successful trial lawyer, and they mentor youth, high school and mostly probably minority kids that are from rougher backgrounds, tougher neighborhoods and things, and they try to get them in and bring them to the law firm where they're at, and try to get them into mentorship programs. They work with some a couple of these organizations that work with youth and everything, and it's a great thing, and we were talking about it, what happens when they do this, and they've had some great successes where they've been able to get some of these young folks into pursuing careers in the law and so forth. And he explained kind of how they come to the law practice and they see us, he wears these really cool, nice suits and everything, and they see let's say it's a female, they see the women, attorneys and all the people working in the law office and all dressed nice, and they're like, wow, this is really cool. But then, the but is, but I can't see myself, doing this. How do I get from where I am in life, with my background over to where you guys are? This is like a million miles apart, it seems like, and that's where they try to, oh no, you're wrong, that's what the mentoring is about, is to try to train them to think differently about themselves and to think about being successful, and that you can be anything, And so I kind of, off of that, we even got into like, well, what about personality types, and so I kind of keyed on this idea like shy, because there's so many prototypical stereotypes out there in the world about being a lawyer, and I was like, what about a shy person? We talked about it, so I thought it'd make a great, after I mulled it over, I was like, this would be a great one, I think, to make a YouTube about, to spark interest in people who may be thinking about the law and then have already shot themselves down saying, I don't know, I'm not the right type of person, I'm not this, I'm not that. So let's talk about it. This is the LFI channel. If you we really appreciate it, reach down there and hit the subscribe button. Always thankful for that. So let's dive in here. So, should inherently shy people work to obtain a law degree, and are there opportunities for them to be lawyers? That's the kind of the whole. Let's dive into this today and see what we come up with. Just a quick disclaimer. These videos are not financial, legal, or professional advice. We're more tilted towards training and entertainment, and just kind of teaching concepts, general, wide concepts. Get people thinking. Get people to maybe act, when they've been procrastinating, to think about ideas in life, becoming bigger or better at these topics that we talk about: law, financial, insurance, things like that. If anything gets to the point where you think you're really diving in deep and you need, any kind of advice beyond, something like what we do here, always seek a professional. On a topic like today, probably, I don't know, a guidance counselor, and if you get into intricacies of the law, maybe actually try to meet or pursue talking to an attorney or somebody to help you out. Bottom line, down there, the more you know going in, the better you can ask the right questions and get a better outcome, and that's basically the name of the game on anything on a teaching style presentation like this. More information you have, the better you can think about making decisions on things that might seem confusing or overwhelming. So let's briefly talk first about what is the path to even becoming, an attorney, a licensed lawyer. This is a licensed field. You have to be highly credentialed to even practice law. The actual term of passing law school and getting that degree is a JD, a Juris Doctorate. So it's on par, equivalent, in my opinion, and I think widely accepted, that it's a PhD kind of type level of education. It's above a master's degree. It's a very, very high level, intensified amount of education. And then after that, you you'll see it in titles. After the person's name, they can list as JD, attorney at law. They can put Esquire after their name. That's what you become when you become an actual licensed practicing attorney. So what's that path? So the first thing is you'd have to obtain an undergraduate 4-year degree, because this is like pursuing an advanced degree like a master's or a PhD. So a BA, Bachelor of Arts, a BS, Bachelor of Science, and it can pretty much be in any field, from any accredited college, which means your local state college, private college, super elite, Ivy League, anything like that works. You could start out at a junior college, do 2 years and get your core basic classes out of the way, and then transfer over to a 4-year college. It doesn't mean you have to go out and spend $1 bazillion and go into super duper debt and all that. Maybe you can live at home, go to the junior college, transfer to the state university. That's all fine. Anything English is a great one. I always just comes to mind because the law is so much writing and reading. So if you were good at that, you're like, yeah, maybe I want to get a law degree and pursue an advanced degree. Science or engineering is always a natural, I think, because of let's say you're into high tech, and maybe you want to pursue engineering, and then I call it like wrap around. Maybe later you're looking at and what I'd like to do is I love the interest in the law too. Maybe I'd wrap a law degree around my tech engineering degree, and we'll talk later in this about what kind of things happen when you do that. But it could be a degree in philosophy, pretty much anything. So obviously the better the grades you get in that undergraduate process, your 4-year degree, the better your chances of being accepted to a law school, any law school, but especially maybe of one of your choice. So, the big takeaway is hard work early on pays off. Definitely give it your best and take seriously your undergraduate degree, because, it's not a cakewalk, to just slide into law school. And so the better work you do early on and get better at being a student and showing you can perform well in whichever major you pick there, the better it is when you come to looking to go to that, what would be, the equivalent of graduate school, the law school. So, and then the next real common step is that you would then be ready to sit for, if you think this is what you want to do, what's called the LSAT, the Law School Admission Test. And this is just a very common, very standard test that's recognized across pretty much all the law schools in the United States. I don't know what goes on all around the rest of the world. I'm sure there's similar concepts and ideas. And what it is really a law has been around a long time, right? Since the founding of this country, it's been around since the beginning of time, probably in every organized society. So, the law schools have a good idea, a benchmark of kind of, what kind of person is wired, brain wired, the kind of the right way to do well in the law, the practice and thinking of the law and the type of work that's required in doing the law, which is a lot of information and reading and writing, and just it's a very broad, advanced degree. And so this test is kind of a benchmark, and it's not to be mean or exclude anybody. It's really a way of saying, if we were to let you in, we're obviously going to take your money and everything, and based on the LSAT, we have a pretty good track record of knowing who's going to be likely to succeed at law school, and if it really doesn't look like you're a fit, it doesn't mean anything bad or wrong. It just means maybe the law is not for you, So that's sort of where that test is used as a kind of a first bar, mixed with also your undergraduate and other background life information. And then so the common process would be you would then have that undergrad degree in hand. You would take your LSAT scores, and you would generally start applying to and seeking acceptance to a law school, and hopefully send out, it's not uncommon to send out many applications to law schools, plural, and try to find one that would take you, or hopefully many acceptances, and then you can choose. And for various reasons, like I think I stated before there, perhaps you live at home still with your parents, and you're in town there, and you might have already started, let's say, working with your Bachelor of Science degree in engineering, let's say, and you say I'm going to do law school and I'm going to do it, after my work hours and in the evenings and weekends and all that, and I want to live at home and not spend, I want to try to do this, on as best a budget as I can. And other people are going to say, I'm really trying to get into a certain law school because I this kind of well-known one or famous one, or my family member went there and they're an alumni, and they want to go clear across to a different state. So who knows? All those possibilities. But that would kind of be the process. So these stereotypes, of the super type A, extroverted, definitely not shy, right? Attorney, lawyer, and my belief, I got up here on the top bullet point there. I think most of it comes from movies and TV, and there's been some great, law dramas. And this clip I've got here is a very good movie, in my opinion. It's called, A Few Good Men. Now that's a military court, but very similar concept. The military has its own branch of the law, called the JAG, Judge Advocate General, but very similar courtroom setting. And this is the famous scene of Tom Cruise, who's the younger Navy a lawyer representing some Marine Corps guys. You don't see it in the picture, but who he's talking to is Jack Nicholson, who's the super duper, type A, outgoing Marine colonel, very much senior in rank. And this is that, that I want the truth, and see, this is what people see. And this was a really good, great legal movie. And then, if you were shy or introverted or these things we're talking about, and you would see this, and you would go like, oh, heck no, right? That's not me. I could never in a million years stand up in front of people and, think on my feet and make these arguments and oh my gosh, it's just a complete, I can't do it. So there's nothing there for me in the law, right? It's over. Just throw that dream in the trash can, right? And this guy, this friend of mine that I said, who I got kind of the idea to make this video, this mentoring that they do, he very much is exactly this, because he is a trial lawyer. A trial lawyer is kind of the elite, in the law field, because it is that sort of gladiator, go to court, in the courtroom, in front of the judge, in front of the jury, on your feet, think fast. And this guy's the prototypical guy, just like this. He's a super, built guy. He's a big guy, and he was a very successful college athlete. Still looks like that to this day. Definitely type A, and he fits it to the T. But in talking to him, I was like, well, what about these other things? You're talking about is what are we is, if a person isn't you and doesn't look like you, and doesn't have all that outgoing and super mega confidence or whatever it is you want to call it, can they just forget it? And so let's see what we found out here. So are these stereotypes true? And then thus, I like to pick, that's why I picked the topic on this video is, that word shy. It just covers so many, kind of the personality type thing, and or introverted, or just not what you see in these things we're so used to. Even news, right? It's very common. That makes for good news. Some of these high-profile cases, maybe a celebrity, and there really are these big name, right? They're trial lawyers, and they've over many years built up these incredible reputations, and they go into these high-profile court cases, and it is like this, and it makes for good news, right? Because it's dynamic personalities and all this action and like this, We'll get moving on here. Again, just if you feel compelled, to be glad to have you hit the subscribe. Always thankful, and start following the channel. We're going to be doing a lot of these kind of training and discussion videos to kind of spark interest in these topics. So, the aggressive and outgoing lawyer stereotype. Here's the deal. The good news. It's almost always about what I just described, trial lawyers. The kind of the elite class that do the courtroom on your feet, in the front of the judge, in front of the jury. And the bullet point, let's face it, it makes for good movies and good TV and drama and conflict and tension, in a courtroom action, and loud and aggressive. That's a movie, right? It's good stuff. Nobody is going to sit on the second bullet point and watch something, like what they're going to be doing paperwork or something, right? How do you turn that into a film, And so at the bottom there, but here's we're getting towards the good news. For shy people and even introverts, see the guy down at the bottom there? Are you ready to hear some good news? He's got his tin can with a string on it, the modern communication device. And what did I find out? Good news. The law field is ginormous. Ginormous. It's actually a word. I think I checked online just to be sure. And it means huge. Big. Super big. Huge. And so, that prototype that we've built, especially in USA Society, the movies, the TV, courtroom dramas and all this, those trial lawyers, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of what we would call the law and of practicing the law, meaning getting that law degree. And so the answer, there's literally hundreds of ways to make use of a law degree and be involved in the legal field. Literally. And we're going to go into some of them. So our answer, back to that first slide, is a huge, gigantic yes. Many of the areas of practicing law, of the law, can be ideal for shy or introverted people, or people of all types and all backgrounds and all demographics and where you grew up, and again, I can't see myself getting from here to there. I'm not that type. No, the field is huge, and we're gonna get right into it here and show that you can do all kinds of things. The law degree opens a door to just so many possibilities, and definitely shy or introverted, absolutely. So let's go and we'll go for it here. Let's see what we can find out. So, just some examples. This is just a tiny, tiny fraction, but this will hopefully be the encouragement if you've ever even thought about this, but you said, I can't, So, what are other areas of the law outside of that trial lawyer prototypical stereotype? Corporate and transactional law. You name it. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and then go down the list. It would be hundreds. It would be every public traded company on the U.S. stock market. There's so many things in day-to-day businesses where they're not obviously in trial and going to court and all. There is a lot of just things that they need legal people, because they do business not only state to state, they do business in every country on the globe. The kind of the three companies I just named, and so many parts of their business, everything they do, every product they release, has licensing, and there's transactional things, and the business side, and compliance, with all the different laws that change across all the different states. Bazillion ways to practice law. The next one, regulatory law. I have kind of a background from tech, and some of this I understand pretty well. FDA. If you make anything like a medical product or device that's used, like picture a hospital, full of modern equipment and all these things, heavily regulated, and also pharmaceuticals or drug, making and manufacturing and being in that field. FDA regulatory law is an entire field. You could practice law and get into the niche of becoming an FDA regulatory law expert. And every company that's in those kind of businesses, I guarantee, has regulatory folks on staff, who do nothing but, interact with the FDA. And it would be, and they never see an inside of a courtroom. It's purely regulatory legal practice. I'm a guy with a background, flying in aviation, and that one came to mind off the top of the head right here. I think there's a guy, I think I actually saw him on YouTube. He's a pilot background and an attorney, And he's created a whole practice out of aviation law. So there's another one, heavily regulated. That would be the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. And anything from, you know, a small plane pilot license to airline pilots to, you know, plane crashes, all kinds of possibilities. And he loves aviation and flying, and he wrapped a law degree around it. And he's made an entire life and practice out of just FAA law. I mean, since we're on that one, kind of the flying thing, what about, you know, you grew up and you like to sail, you know, your parents, you know, whoever, a friend, you got into sailboating or whatever it might be. Maritime law, the oceans and ships, and so everything from, again, from probably private boating to fishing, you know, boating, to you know, transportation, you know the big shipping container and shipping lines and international ocean things, right? You could make an entire practice, I guarantee it, out of maritime law as a niche. So it's huge. Let's jump. You know, we better keep moving here. The teaching the law, the next one. So with a law degree, it's such a high level, well-rounded education that covers so many things that not only could you possibly teach law, but you could teach some of the other topics right above. You could likely teach at a college and teach, you know, corporate stuff or transactional things or contracts, or you know, you see how that degree would open the door to all kinds of possibilities in some subject that you're interested in. And then, you know, what's your qualification? Well, you know, I'm this, and I'm my undergraduate, and I also have a law degree. And they're like, oh, well, holy cow, you know, you're definitely qualified to teach this, you know, like intro to whatever, you know. The next one, legal research, huge. And again, for a person who would be, you know, quote, kind of that shy side or introverted, if you like the back, you know, the back room kind of, you know, the bunker and absorbing large amounts of information, you're a reader, and you know, again, English major maybe, you like to write and you're good at absorbing large amounts of information and boiling it down to the important parts, and then, you know, writing briefs, let's say summaries to get this down to the, you know, to the nitty-gritty. It's a huge field. You know, all the law firms have some attorneys that are just legal research, and they have clerks. Sometimes those are law students, and sitting judges. You know, the judges can't possibly, let's say on these big civil law corporate cases, let's say it was a giant like a Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and they're in one of these cases, a legal case with, I don't know, maybe the government, like a regulatory thing. The judge can't possibly. Those cases are so huge and complex. So what they do is they have a staff, and they have you know, lawyers and who clerk for them and everything on those staffs, and they're in the background there, and they're following all this complex stuff that each side is presenting, and they have to get these things boiled down to where a judge can read and hit the bullet points and kind of follow, you know, because the case down, you know, to key information. Otherwise they would just be buried, and these cases would never have a chance of moving forward, let alone, you know, lots and lots of them. These judges handle a lot of cases at one time, so they need people who can do this kind of legal research and are good at it. The next one, being self-employed. Fantastic, right, with a law degree. Be an entrepreneur. The law degree is like a super duper booster, you know, if you wanted to pursue that, because the law is in everything. If you were to start up a company, you know, contractual law, you know, to paying your taxes, to interacting with the CPA, and all these things, with a law background, you're just that much farther ahead than everybody else who might be the competition across the street. And they would have to hire everybody, you know, to understand even the basics on a lot of the things, setting up a corporation. And you would be like, well, you know, I don't specialize in that field of law, but with my law background, I can handle all this, you know. And now you're a leg up, you know. It's wide open. And then the last one, entering a totally kind of what we talked about, a non-law related field. But, you know, the big one there, have a law degree. It just makes you that much more valuable. As the law is literally in everything that we do every day. It's in every aspect of life. So you can, I call it, again, that wrapping around. You can use some other undergraduate and then add your law degree and kind of become a niche specialist. I show one here, real estate, right? The law is involved in everything, especially the higher end it gets. The more expensive, let's say just residential real estate, but you're in these $1 million home contracts, right? They need legal consultation. Probably those contracts are so complex, let alone commercial real estate. Or you're going to invest and build homes or something, right? There's so much involved in building permits and government stuff, and people who can read and understand because they have that background. Now, all this legalese, kind of what we call the fine print in life, right? All that stuff, that kind of wording. And when you don't have the background, it's very difficult to follow. When you have the legal background, it's like you have an understanding. You may not specialize in that, but then you can have a friend, partner, other lawyer you get to know, and you ask them on certain things, and then they come to you on certain things, and you're just that far much ahead. So it's a fantastic degree and field that you can just add into pretty much everything. So it's wide open for all personalities. Definitely, a shy person, introverted. There are so many places you could find. So down there at the bottom, in green, the law is big enough for people of all personality types, and let alone shy or introvert, and any background. You don't have to come from a certain side of the tracks or go to some certain prestigious schools only, or you can do this with all different possibilities. It's just huge and wide open. So, keeping it simple, the law and pursuing a law degree is a field that's big. It's big enough for everyone. A law degree and being a lawyer can make you valuable, whether you directly practice law as a public, lawyer, let alone a trial lawyer. Back to that, that movie scene. You can pursue a totally different field, like engineering and tech. Like I said, something you have an interest in, and then that law factor, finance, real estate, just boosts you way that much farther ahead, and then you can make it into a specialty niche where you become a true expert in, like the guy I described. I was fascinated watching, I think, his couple videos he did, where he, I realized like he's made a whole life out of aviation, which he loves, and then the law. So all kinds of possibilities. Next bullet point, let's not kid ourselves. Law degree is hard work, no doubt about it. And passing the bar. The bar is law is state by state. You'll see in the United States, you're qualified to practice in Arizona, or it's not uncommon that a lot of these attorneys they lived in one area for a while, so they have a Arizona law, license, and then they moved, and they're like, now I can practice law in Texas and Florida or something. But the bar is the kind of, in each state, the regulatory group of attorneys and kind of sort of like what physicians do. They have their own oversight. There's a lot of legend about that word bar. I heard one is something, going back to Britain. The most common one I heard is that bar, meaning if you look at a courtroom, there's the observer side, and then there's always that railing. And, on the other side is obviously where the judge is up there on the bench, and then the attorneys sit across, one on one side, the other on the other side, and that railing, the bar, like in other words, passing the bar is that you're entering from the non-attorney observing side into the area of where the law is practiced. That's one theory. I don't know if that's the one. There's a lot of mythology behind it, but the bar exam is sort of this legendary, super hard. Some people take it multiple times to pass. A lot of people nail it the first time, but that's the final thing, is you pass that bar exam. And then you are a fully licensed, attorney at that point. You are the name, Joe Smith, Jane Smith, attorney at law, and then with that JD degree also you can, and your Esquire, all that. So, if you feel this is a dream, I'd seriously consider going for it. And think about these things we're talking about. What area do you see, in your life? And don't narrow it down to like I don't fit, I can't do it, because it's not true. It's a huge, wide open, just an incredibly good field, because it applies to just everything we have to do in life. So you might, consult school guidance counselors, read online, maybe try to meet a practicing attorney, like one of those mentor programs. See if you can get inside a law practice and see what they do and what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. And is this for me? Maybe, and dream big. So at least go as far as, if you're even thinking about it, get that 4-year degree and sit for that LSAT. You may even take it more than once. And maybe fire off some applications to a law school. You never know if you don't try. Again, down there at the bottom, if you feel compelled, we'd sure like you to subscribe and hit the button there. Let's see where we're at here. So let's recap. Got my little guy there up at the top, the cool dude. Just do it, right? Do it. Go for it. So never let a dream such as, I think I might want to go to law school, and then here comes what? All the shoot downs, right? The doubts, the naysayers, the negative talkers. And what do they say? And here's what's interesting in life to me, kind of funny. I don't know if it's funny or not, but who are these people usually, right? Usually the ones closest to you, right? Friends, so-called friends, family, right? Parents and everything. The negative talkers, right? You can never do that. Are you crazy? Go to law school. Are you nuts? With your personality, right? You're shy and everything. Oh my gosh, And then what happens, right? You walk out of the room. You're like, well, gee, guys, thanks for all the encouraging talk there, and you slump off into the corner and you just throw the dream into the trash can. And you're like, well, that's over, right? That's never going to happen. No, right? You got to tune out that noise. If you think you at least want to pursue it, give it a shot. So take action. Next bullet point. The longer you wait, you'll never know if you missed your dream and opportunity. And then following on to that, most people, they procrastinate and put off things that look hard like this. And what looks hard and then ends up being a regret later in life, right? And you don't want to be that person. You end up doing something, and you're probably pretty good at it, and maybe you do okay in life at it, but you always have that thing where you look back and you say, I always thought of going to law school, and I think I would have been a good lawyer. In fact, I know I would have been, right? I could have done this. I had ideas in my head, and then you just, because of these wrong stereotypes, because of those naysayers, right? Again, are you crazy? You doing that? No, right? Get back in your place. Get over here. You're not going to reach that level. You can't be a doctor. You can't be a this, right? And then, you can't be an attorney, of course. Are you nuts, right? No. You have to just, it's your life, and you got to tune it out. So, bottom line there, don't be scared by something like, I'm shy. I can never do this. With hard work, you can do anything you put your mind to, and definitely the law. So, back to our first slide, can a shy person, could I be a lawyer, an attorney? Absolutely, right? It's a big, giant field. So we just gave you a lot of ideas here to think about today, kind of the basics on how you might, tackle going down this path. If you've even had, a micro thought, at least check it out and pursue it, right? And then see where it goes from there. Okay? So this is Tom again. Thank you for watching us on the LFI channel. Hope you enjoyed this and maybe sparked some interest in you. Got the, that brain firing up and little encouragement there that maybe to act on something that you've been putting on the back burner, and maybe this is for you. So we look forward to you. We'll be posting on a regular basis here, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you on the next one.